Hi everybody, Zach Mitchell here. Welcome to another music update. First off, just want to say that I hope you enjoy my videos here on my channel, and if you do, please remember to give this video a big thumbs up and leave a comment below, because I would love to talk music with you. If you're watching, I'm sure someone is. So, anyway, that out of the way, it is now April 30th, 6:52 p.m. Just got off of work, and since it's the end of the month, you know what time it is. It's time for a new music update. Me showing you all of the CDs, or albums rather, that I got in the month of April. Now, the last video that I did, which was all the CDs that I got for the month of March, I had literally probably like 30 things, or maybe even more than that. I can't remember, but I do remember that the video was so long that I had to split it up into two parts. So, yeah, that is not the case now. I do not have as much as I did the last time, but I do have quite a good number of things. So, I'm going to show you all of the albums that I got in the month of April 2014. So, let's get started. Now, as you probably know from watching my videos in the past, that I am not just a giant rock and roll fan, but I am also a fan of other genres, such as classical and jazz. Now, jazz may not be everyone's cup of tea, but it just recently I've been starting to really get into it, and I've been buying a lot of jazz albums, as you've seen in a couple of other of my updates, and this month is no exception. I got a very large collection of jazz albums. Now, if you don't like this, you can fast forward, but for those of you that do, keep watching, because there's some pretty neat shit here. First off, I got My Favorite Things, John Coltrane live at Newport, which is great. I love live jazz albums because it's just like a live rock and roll jam album, like just as good as the Allman Brothers live at Fillmore or the Who live at Leeds, stuff like that, where they just go on like 15-minute jams or 30-minute jams. The same thing applies here. He goes on like 20-minute jams. His song, his cover of My Favorite Things from the musical The Sound of Music goes on for 17 and a half minutes. It's great. It's 2 discs, and it's great. John Coltrane live at Newport. Okay, I'll just set it right there. Next up, I got a couple more John Coltrane albums. This one is called Stardust, which is some very, very great tenor saxophone playing by him. Very exceptionally good on this, especially on the first track, the title track, Stardust. Next up, John Coltrane, Giant Steps. A lot of you have probably heard that song before, and if you don't think that you do, you probably have, because it's a very popular tune. I'm not going to hum it, because I don't want to embarrass myself. Giant Steps. And a very famous album by John Coltrane. I think a lot of people consider it to be one of his best, or at least one of the definitive moments in his career, which is called Blue Train. And this does actually, the back of this, as you can see there, makes a brief appearance in the movie American Hustle, where Amy Adams is flipping through some albums. This is great. Check it out. So that takes care of all the Coltrane albums. Next up, I got The Essential Duke Ellington. He is a very, very, very beautiful jazz musician. I almost said jazz player. Musician. And it has a lot of his early stuff and a lot of his not as much of a later selection as you would hope for, but he wasn't that big in his later years, unfortunately for him. So the Essential Duke Ellington, and I also got the Essential Miles Davis, one of the most popular and most famous jazz, that kind of went in together. The Essential Miles Davis, one of the best jazz musicians of all time. 2-disc career defining CD, you could call it. Speaking of Miles Davis, I also got some of his albums, which I think a lot of people consider this to be one of his best. It's called Bitches Brew. and it has 25-minute songs on it. I just dropped what I was holding. It has 25-minute songs on it, which I think is great. I love long songs like that. So Bitches Brew, and I also got Miles Davis Roundabout Midnight, which I think my favorite song on it is probably Bye Bye Blackbird. Love it. Next up, another album that the back of makes a brief appearance in American Hustle movie. It's called Kenny Burrell, Midnight Blue. Haven't listened to the whole thing yet because I've been kind of listening to all the other albums that I've been getting in these past few months. But I have, I think, listened to at least one song off of it, and it's great. And last but not least, an album by someone called Cannonball Adderley, and it's called Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. Live at the Club, it's called. Now, I got this because the title track, Mercy, 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 is heard in the movie Wolf of Wall Street, which is one of my favorite movies of the year. And the whole album's awesome, not just that track. So that takes care of all the jazz. Now, if you're just coming in after fast forwarding, this is where you stop. Okay. Now, on to some rock and roll, shall we? I got the double album by the Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, which is probably one of the best double albums ever. I listened to the whole thing from start to finish, and it's just great. It really is. Very nice set. I got this brand new at the Exchange because I could not find it on Amazon for some reason. I don't know why. Next up, I got a little band that you probably never heard of before. Not many people have been in it that are known. Like, I don't know, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page. Not a lot of famous people in this band. The Yardbirds. Their Greatest Hits, Volume 1, 1964 through 1966. Oh, you heard of them before. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying now. Yes, it has 18 tracks on it, and it's great. The Yardbirds. Can you imagine if Led Zeppelin, after Jimmy Page left the Yardbirds, if Led Zeppelin was actually called the New Yardbirds? Do you think they would have been as big as they were? I don't know. Continuing on, this is the most recent one that I got, and it's a greatest hits album by Ray Charles. Call me old-fashioned, but I like it. I do. One of my favorite songs is Drown in My Own Tears, which he sings. So, Ray Charles. Next up, I got another greatest hits album, a gold album, which I really love those. That Gold and The Essential. Both of those are great greatest hits complications. But this one is The Mamas and the Papas, which is an amazing band from the 60s. Not very popular, though. I mean, they're mostly known for just California Dreamin', but there's so much more than just that. So there's 2 discs of this. I'm not going to do the math right now, but there's 17 tracks on disc 1, there's 15 tracks on disc 2. So that's about, 32? Yeah, 32. 32 tracks. So, yeah, check it out. Mamas and the Papas. Sorry, I failed math. What do you expect? I'm a rock and roll fan. Next up, I got the debut album by one of the best heavy metal bands of all time, Black Sabbath. And it's just self-titled, Black Sabbath. I'm sure you've probably heard that album before. I also got an Aerosmith album from their very early days, back when they used to rock the house. Caught it. Toys in the Attic. Just pretend that didn't happen. Toys in the Attic, which has my favorite Aerosmith song on it, Sweet Emotion. Now, all of these kind of go together here, because I've been really loving Zeppelin lately. I've always loved Zeppelin, but I've just really been listening to them a lot lately. So, I decided I want some more Zeppelin than just the 9 albums that they have. So, I decided to get some of Jimmy Page's and Robert Plant's solo stuff. This is an amazing album. It's with Jimmy Page and David Coverdale, and it's just called Page and Coverdale. Amazing album. I think I have to stop it now because we're going into